Hi there, and welcome to my Cloud Forest kitchen. Okay, let's cook some real food. In this fresh and flavorful episode, we'll be making a savory, satisfying, gluten-free, vegan-friendly complete meal almost all in one pot, with delicious, easy-to-make sides, packed with color and nutrition, farm-fresh veggies, and garden-fresh herbs. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is take a good look at the prep table. Let's look at our main ingredients here. So let's focus on our sofrito first. Just remember that a sofrito is any little chopped up mix of veggies and herbs that you use to create the flavor base for your recipe. So our sofrito is going to start with a nice hefty wallop of garlic, some fresh chili peppers, turmeric. If you can't find fresh turmeric, don't worry about it. You can just use the dried powder. Some green onion, a little bit of ginger, a nice spice blend here with some dried cumin and also dried turmeric and a little ground up coriander and also just some table salt. The major ingredient going in our recipe, of course, are the beans. These are wonderful, wonderful frijol that we get here in Ecuador, and I let them sprout for a day or two before I use them to up the nutritional content. But you can use a kidney bean, a black-eyed pea, whatever you like, a black bean. It doesn't matter. Almost any bean will go in this really good baked bean recipe adaptation we're doing here. These are camote, tropical sweet potato. Don't worry if you don't have those. You can use any tasty potato. I've also got some regular little golden potatoes there in the back. You'll need a medium-sized carrot and a tomato. A good ripe avocado to go along with your finished dish, and some nice ripe plantains. Okay, and then just a few things I forgot to mention. As always, you'll need a good sharp knife. Here you want a good high quality heavy bottom saucepan to mix up your beans and your veggies. Some brown sugar. Some sort of a good vinegar, a good homemade cider vinegar or a store-bought cider vinegar. This is actually vinegar that I make here with whatever fruit I have. I think this is banana vinegar. Nice citrusy flavor, which is weird because it's banana vinegar, but it tastes like citrus. And any kind of hot sauce that you like. Okay, so we fast forward a little bit. We got our sofrito all prepared. I'm a rough chopper, nice and rustic. You know, everything out here is slow food. I hear about this slow food revolution. You know, you want slow food, move off the grid, miles from the nearest town, and don't have a refrigerator. Everything out here is from scratch. So I'm a rustic chopper. And remember, everything here can be adjusted. If you really like onion and you don't like turmeric, or you really like hot pepper and not so much garlic, it's totally up to you. Adjust your seasonings. I'm just giving you a general idea here, yeah? And then over here, we've got our veggies that'll go in after the sofrito. Chopped up golden potatoes, purple sweet potato, camote, and a nice little medium-sized carrot. There's our sprouted beans, and the tomato goes in last. Now, while I was prepping, oh, and by the way, you might, and there's my little oven, want to see why I like to cook here so much. It's a little bit of a cloudy day here in the cloud forest, but here's the view from the kitchen. And yeah, I got a pot of rice here started. Rice and quinoa started. Oh, that's just merrily bubbling over. I'll get a chance to fix that. Try to always be doing more than one thing at a time. While you're prepping your sofrito, have your rice going. I also really like this dish with polenta or cornbread, so you could be making that. But today we're just going to keep it nice and basic. A nice little rice and quinoa blend. Okay? Okay, so you got the oil nice and hot here. Toss in your spices, your powdered turmeric, coriander, and cumin. A little bit of oregano. This handy thing my very clever partner made me out of a tree branch. This is my spatula of the forest here, okay? And then once your oil and spices starts to give off a nice aroma, wait for that. I smell cumin, I smell spices. People are looking around, what's cooking. Wait for that, because then you know that the flavors are starting to release from your spices, yeah? And then once that happens, then you can put your sofrito in there. There we go. Just going to toss in everything at the same time. Oh, did that good holding the phone there, right? Okay, so here we go. We got our garlic, green onion, turmeric, fresh turmeric if you have it. Turmeric grows like crazy out here. Actually, this is the natural habitat of turmeric. So we're really fortunate to have not just great spice and food, but also a really powerful medicine out here. Really easy to grow. And I've got a tutorial also for you guys on how to grow it at home. Okay, so I'm just going to let these saute here for a little while until they get nice and soft. Okay, well, this smells divine. Veggies are getting nice and soft. So the next thing that goes in are your beans. Okay, so we're going to toss those guys in. Lovely. A little salt on top. I always put in the salt with the beans. It helps to soften them up and cook them a little bit more tender. Of course, salt to your taste. I mean, I would salt everybody to death if that was my choice. So I try to refrain from, giving people heart attacks. But anyway, salt to your taste. And mix everything in. Get it all mixed together. Okay. Then, once that's all mixed up, go ahead and you can just toss in the rest of your veggies. Your potatoes, your carrots, your sweet potato, if you have it. Any root veggie. Experiment. Maybe toss in a little bit of, or even a vine veggie. Toss in a little bit of pumpkin squash or a rutabaga. I wouldn't do a red beet in there. That'll just make everything taste like beet. But maybe a turnip, So whatever you like, you can put in there, okay? And then we're just going to mix that up. Now, next step, what you want to do here is don't add all your water right away. It just destroys flavor, okay? Put in just a little bit of water. Yeah? Maybe turn the heat up just a little bit. And then what you'll do is you'll put the lid on for a little while. And you're just going to let everything sweat. And by letting the veggies sweat, but without boiling the bejesus out of them, you'll get a nice caramely texture, a nice rich flavor. And then once that happens, then we'll go ahead and we'll put more water in and go from there. Okay, so while the veggies were sweating down and the rice is cooking, I got my plantain peeled and cut up. Guys, if you're new to cooking with plantains, I mean, I really can't recommend it enough. They're the most versatile thing in the world and so delicious. This is the easiest way to make them, to make maduros or ripe plantains. Oh, and you can get them anywhere except pretty much Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. So, live a little, branch out. Go to your neighborhood Latino grocery store. Even the Safeway is going to have them, okay? These are really ripe. They're going to be nice and sweet. I'm also going to show you how to make green ones. Got my avocado halved. That's nice and ripe. And everything here ready to go out to the compost, okay? And let's go over here. Lovely view. Little hummingbirds out there. Okay. Checking on the rice and the quinoa. Please don't freak out that it's white rice. We have you can make brown rice. Knock yourself out. Here we have arroz viejo, which is rice that is, it's not all the way debraned, so it's got quite a bit of bite and flavor to it. I think it's delicious, and I mix in a little bit of quinoa to up the protein content and the nutrition. And that's nice and tender. That's done. And then over here, okay, lovely colors. Veggies, all nice and sweated. Didn't lose the flavor. Getting nice and sealed in there, all these good flavors. Okay, so now you can go ahead and add water to cover. I don't want to cover this stuff. There we go. Toss in a tomato, whole. I'll show you why in a minute, okay? I'm just going to put that in there. Make sure it doesn't have to be all the way submerged, but make sure it's in there. And then we'll turn up the heat a little bit. Okay, be careful. Keep an eye on this so it doesn't boil over. And then put the lid back on until it comes back up to a boil. Okay, so a few minutes went by. I don't know, maybe 4 minutes tops. Brought my guy there up to a boil. And you know your tomato is ready to come out when the skin is split. Okay, so very carefully, Use your sharp knife, give it a good stab. Oh my goodness, that looks so beautiful. And just take it out and transfer it over to a plate or a bowl, okay? Now, we're going to do a fancy time lapse here. No, actually, I'm just kidding. I'm going to turn off the phone, and we're going to wait for this guy to cool down so that I can touch it, yeah? Okay, so what I did here is once my tomato was cool enough to handle, I separated the skin away from the rest of it. Here's the skin. And you want to take this little guy out, you know, the little centerpiece that's a little bit tough. Okay. So we're going to put that guy over to the side. So now you have the skin. Now it's totally up to you. I love tomato skin. My partner Juan doesn't like it. So I toss everything back in, and then when I'm serving it, I just make sure I get the skin. Or if you're not crazy about the skin, you can just take it out. I think it's really nutritious and totally worth eating, but he's not crazy about it. So I do this for him, okay? However, it is really nice to cook your tomato separately and then put it back in like a nice sauce, okay? So here we go. We're going to add our finishing touches. Just a tad, a little tiny bit of a cider vinegar. That's going to help to soften up your beans and give a nice tangy flavor. Hot sauce to your taste. Yeah, not too much here. And a little bit of brown sugar. Okay. Not too much. Yeah, all that is really going to help to develop the flavors of everything else and bring out all the flavors. Now, if you used dried beans and even if you soaked them really well, I have a whole tutorial that I give on how to soak beans properly, which it's not just leaving them overnight in the same water. For digestibility, there's some really important things to know about soaking beans. However, that is a different lesson. Okay, so let's stick to the point before I go off on a tangent. Now, if your beans are cooking kind of slowly and you want to soften them up and you just want to make everything just a little bit more like stewy, you know, as opposed to having, you know, the beans really solid, you can smash them up a little bit. So here I have my handy dandy plantain smasher, but you know, you could use a pestle or whatever, and just get in there and start smashing up your beans a little bit, and that's going to make the consistency of your bean mix here, your bean stew, a little bit more thick and creamy, and it's going to help your beans to cook faster and to absorb more flavors. So I usually always do this towards the end. And I don't make it like a hummus. You know, I'm not going to go crazy because, you know, time is valuable. I'm just going to smash them down a little bit and get the flavors in there and get them to cook up until they're nice and soft. And that's pretty much it. You know, once you got them broken up a little bit, you bring everything back up to a nice little bubble. And then we're going to put our lid back on until this bad boy is done. Okay, so I am of the opinion that this is done. Beans are nice and tender. It's got a great flavor. This is a really good time to add any final seasonings if you like. If you want a little more salt, a little more heat, a little more acid, add a little more vinegar, maybe some black pepper, whatever you like. I just tasted this and I think it's really perfect, so I'm just going to leave it as is, okay? You just want to leave it here in the pot, yeah? Let it cool down a little bit, let all the flavors harmonize. And now that we know that this is done, what I did was I started to heat up my oil for my plantains. So over here, make sure you're using a really good high heat oil. You can use sunflower, you can use canola. And everybody likes to use coconut oil for everything. It's going to make your plantains taste like coconut if you're into that. I mean, that's totally cool. Do whatever you like. Now, I like to put my plantains, and be careful not to splash yourself, one by one. I don't toss them all in because then I just have to separate them anyway. So it really just kind of goes in a little bit better if I just toss them in there one at a time. Make sure that, yeah, that they're all in there. They're all in the oil. Okay? So make sure your oil is hot before you start doing this. And by hot, I mean hot. Otherwise, what happens if the oil's not hot enough, if you've never pan-fried things, you'll figure this out really quickly, whether it's arepas or plantains or any kind of little veggie patties or whatever. They just get really soggy and soaked with oil, you know, because you want the oil to be hot enough to kind of make like a seal. And then it's not necessarily like eating a lot of oily food, because when the oil is hot enough, it seals off the surface of whatever it is that you're frying, and then the oil doesn't get all inside. So make sure that whenever you're pan frying anything, that before you put whatever it is that you're going to fry in there, that your oil is really hot. Not like smoking hot, not burning, scalding, smoking, getting bad oil, okay? But just make sure that it's nice and hot. So we've got all of our plantains in there. Make sure that they've all got... I don't have a hardwood floor. I actually have palm tree shells on my floor, so everything in my kitchen is a little bit sloped. I sort of said goodbye to level surfaces a long time ago. So I'm always kind of like making sure that, the oil is going all the way around the pan. You probably have a level floor and don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we're going to let these fry for a little while, pan fry for a little while, and then we'll check them and flip them. Okay, so I like mine. We like ours a little bit, really done. Okay, so those are starting to, they look burned, but they're not. They're just nice and caramelized on the bottom. So you can just yeah, that's done, yeah. And then just give them a nice flip one by one. And, yeah, just until they're all flipped over. And it's a little easier to do with two hands, so I'm going to turn this off, but you get the idea. Just check the bottoms, and if they're a nice golden brown or even a dark brown, just shows that they're caramelizing, all the sugars are caramelizing. Go ahead and flip them all over. And voila, here's all of our elements. Our cloud forest baked beans stew, savory, rich, satisfying. Your bed of choice, like I said, I just have a nice basic arroz viejo, old rice it's called, with some quinoa mixed in. You could also do a polenta or a cornbread, whatever you like, or a brown rice or sprouted rice or whatever. And some nice sweet Maduro plantains here. Chopped avocado. I have a little bit of plain yogurt here. You can also feel free to use some sour cream or Greek yogurt or whatever you like. And this is one of my specialties that I make here, a delicious pickled beet salad. These beets are so rich and so savory and so good that I think they call at the very end a little bite for a little bite of acid. Yeah, just something a little bit tart. So I like to put a little pickle on there. And that's another recipe that you guys are going to get. All of my really good ways of preserving all the goodness of the garden or the fresh market, the farmer's market. So here's everything all plated up, or bowled, as I should say. Fresh creamy avocado, topped off with a little plain yogurt and beet salad, pickled beet salad, our baked beans of the cloud forest stew, and some sweet plantains. Enjoy! This tasty dish also goes great with fresh corn arepas. Check out Sueño de Vida on YouTube for how to make tender, crisp arepas at home. For more farm-to-table goodness, scrumptious desserts, fruit preserves and liqueurs, homemade vinegar and kombucha, pickles, salsas, and more, keep watching the Cloud Forest Kitchen. Thank you. And please come visit all of us here in the forest in beautiful Ecuador at Sueño de Vida.